Wanderers Show.
Welcome to the latest edition of the Wycombe Wanderers Show with Bob and myself.
Very good evening to you.
Thank you very much indeed for joining us, for having us on in a strange week, because we'll be reviewing a game on a Tuesday night, but not one on a Saturday.
That's true.
I don't think that's happened before,
and the fact that we can almost say thank you to Colin for doing drive time as well, which will make no sense if you're listening on the podcast, but Colin has been keeping the desk warm for the last hour.
Yeah, it might raise a smile, especially now you've explained it.
Yes, indeed. So yes, we will be reviewing the victory against Burton Albion.
But not talking about the game on Saturday. In fact, there wasn't one.
No, Gareth was there watching some football, he said.
Yes.
He wasn't doing any DIY or anything. And we have a game, of course, this Saturday as well. 2 home games in a row. Burton on Tuesday, obviously, and now AFC Wimbledon are the visitors to Adams Park on Saturday, 3 o'clock. There's going to be various festive things going on, apparently.
Yeah, no, sounds very good indeed.
No fireworks, though.
Oh, no. That's Boxing Day.
Yes.
Watch out for those if you're in the area.
The wonder of Wycombe.
Nice. We'll be hearing from the manager, Gareth Ainsworth. Also, you spoke to him this morning as well.
I did, yeah. It was very interesting. He talks about what he thinks about the whole Wimbledon moving situation. He talks about David Wheeler being a Swiss Army knife. All will be revealed later in the show.
Do you think he's got pet names for all his players?
Yes, possibly. I think Swiss Army knife is probably the best one.
Yeah, definitely.
It's better than the Gibraltar Tevez.
Absolutely. Oh, well, they're from Paul.
Or Messi. No, it was Messi, wasn't it? That was it.
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
Yeah, TJ.
The Gibraltar Tevez.
Yes.
No, or was it? I can't remember now.
I think you came up with that, or somebody else came up with that.
Yeah. Either would be alright, though, wouldn't it?
You can tell it's live this week, can't you?
Yes. Isn't it? What do you mean this week? Also, that's an in-joke as well. Also, we'll be hearing from Paul Foley, who's the head of the Wycombe Wanderers Sport and Education Trust, as the game we're talking about, the Burton encounter. The Burton encounter. Sounds
like a 1940s film.
Was allocated the Rainbow Laces match. More on that to come as well. We'll chat to John Bignall, who is he's been lots of things. He's followed the club since the 50s. He I don't think his name is John Bignall either, but also
that's what I wrote down.
Is it?
Yes.
Oh, that's encouraging.
Yes.
But I had a different name in my head for some reason.
No, that's always bad, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
He supported the club and followed the club since the 50s. He's also been the secretary.
You were doubting yourself at the very vital moments.
Absolutely, just back to
and
where
you gave into that.
And then committed.
No, John Bignall is what I've got written down. He sounds really, really, really interesting because he was basically in charge of the reserve side under Martin O'Neill. And obviously that was quite an important thing, a position to be in, because of course way back when they used to have reserve sides, and that used to be your way for getting into the first team. Of course, we don't really have that quite so much in the same way anymore. Maybe because of the number of games, because we now have the development B team, whatever you want to call them. Sam Grace's boys, I think is the way that they're known now. But yes, so we will be speaking to John Bignall later on.
That was close. Also, I'm very pleased to say that I've got that right, and also very pleased to be chatting this week about 3 points on a Tuesday night, which keeps us level with the leaders.
What a fantastic display it was, particularly in the first half. We were all over Burton Albion, and well deserved our goals. Brandon Hannon take a bowser because it was an absolutely fantastic goal after 16 minutes. And Gareth McCleary then getting a very well-deserved goal just before half-time, but really you had to watch it and you were probably thinking at half-time we should have probably been going in maybe 3, maybe even 4. That wouldn't have been too greedy, whereas 2-0 was probably the bare minimum that we deserved.
Absolutely, and I guess I know it's easy to look at the league table, but if you look, how many different places we are in the table to them, you'd thought this would be a game for the taking quite well. Yeah,
I mean, they are 10th. Before this game, they were, he says quickly doing the maths, so they were 10 points behind us, but actually in a fairly congested League One. Then, as you're rightly saying, I think that's a bit of a leap, and really, yes, we should be looking to beat the sides like Burton Albion if we are serious about this, particularly if we're serious about this automatic promotion lark, then that's the sort of game that we should be winning. Obviously it was slightly concerning in the second half that they did then come back into it. As Gareth has said and will be alluding to in a few moments, you very much expect a team to come back like that. You don't quite expect them to score the goal that they did, though, which was slightly bizarre, and it was as if time sort of slowed down. It was a slight Doctor Who type moment, and everybody watched the ball go in, and the only person who really thought that actually it was a goal was the referee.
So we'll hear the thoughts of the manager, Gareth Ainsworth, speaking to Phil after the game.
Burton are always going to have a spell, especially after half-time, because I thought we were super dominant first half. Some of the best football we've played, and for a long ball side, we did quite well, I thought, and people keep thinking that, so that's great for me. And you watch some of the play in that first half, it was fantastic. I don't think we put one hopeful ball in the box. I thought they were all purposeful. I thought the chances were plenty. I was disappointed we didn't score more goals, if I'm honest. There's some good defending and some cracking saves from their keeper, but some of the stuff we've been working on in training really coming to fruition during the games. Half-time we always knew that somebody like Jimmy, who I've got a lot of respect for, would get his team right up for it second half, and you're going to have that onslaught. All teams, no matter who you are, you're going to have these 10 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, and then it's about riding the storm, changing that momentum, trying to turn the tide, and we did that really well. I thought there was some fantastic defending, but also the running and the work rate of the two strikers just kept releasing us forward and kept getting us up the pitch. Gareth McCleary and Anis Mehmeti, you know what you're going to get from those players. They're very dangerous players. But then I thought that one of the pivotal points was the change when David Wheeler comes on and really shows up that midfield, which they were starting to dominate. But when Wheels came on, who is more of that aggressive physical player on a night like tonight, I thought he was outstanding as well. But now some real good performances. Chris Farino getting his league debut, really, really pleased for him. But he's got a wealth of experience right around him. Curtis Thompson, Jack Crimmage, Joe Jacobson, David Stockdale. I'd like to make my league debut with those four surrounding me. It was an awesome performance from him. But again, he'll be saying it's all about the team, and it is. The boys who didn't get on, I feel for, because you want to be part of this, but believe me, they all will be. We've got a heck of a schedule coming up, but after the break you always worry, but the boys have come up trumps, and really proud of them tonight.
Wycombe dominated the first half, and that second goal in first half stoppage time seemed like just rewards, but turned out to be a very vital goal.
Yeah, and you've got to take your chances when you're on top. How many times do you see this? And you watch game after game, and you know that when you have these spells and when you're on top, you must take those chances. In the past, this club's probably been guilty of playing well, having chances and not taking them. But we've got some clinical finishes now. Sam Vokes, Brandon Hanlon, what a goal he scored tonight. Gareth McCleary, you always know that there's danger when he's about. I'd like a couple more from other areas, and we're working on that. But it was great to go in at 2-0. It's always a dodgy scoreline though, because you're always worried when teams come at you. But I thought we saw the game out really well, and could have had a couple more second half, but I'll take the 3 points and move on to Wimbledon on Saturday.
Also in first half stoppage time, there was the young Burton striker Jefferson had been booked previously in the first half, and there was a late tackle on Brandon Hanlon, a long chat from the referee. Do you feel that perhaps that should have been the second yellow?
I'm not going to comment on that. It's the referee's job. They've always got a tough job. It speaks a lot that Jimmy's took him off at half time. I don't think there's many more fouls left in him, but like I said, the referee makes those decisions. I thought there was a couple of challenges that he let go, and then a couple that he gave that looked very similar, but on the whole, like I say, it's a tough job in the middle of the park, and the Burton team are going to beat teams that they're 8th, 9th in the league, for a reason. They work hard. Jimmy's got a good outfit there. I was worried about this one. It's a tough place. It's a tough game. And it's always a tough place to go to Burton. But fortunately, the last game of the season now, and we can move on to Wimbledon Saturday.
The second half, the first goal for Burton was quite a surreal one. It's almost as if people had stopped. What was your view on it?
Slow motion, wasn't it? Yeah. The ball got, I think they got stuck under some feet, and I think there was a potential push in there, and that's what the boys were expecting to be given. It's probably a lesson that you don't stop until the final whistle. David Stockdale's unsighted. It seemed to go past him quite close, but I think he's trying to look around people and didn't see it coming. It happens. Just that's, as you say, why it's so important to capitalise when you're on top, and getting the 2-goal cushion was important tonight. But no, again, it's just another win. we've got to keep clocking these up now. Ryan Tafazoli, Josh Scowen, Darryl Horgan, Sully Kaikai, as well as some of our youngsters, who didn't get on the pitch today. I've got a good squad behind me now. Dominic Gabe and Nick Freeman, waiting with longer term injuries, but really, really looking forward to seeing this squad rotate through Christmas and being a lot stronger than we ever have been, and rightly so. Top of League One is a nice place to be.
One of Wycombe's key performers this season and of recent seasons, Anthony Stewart, not in the squad tonight. Any news from him?
I missed Anthony, didn't I? Sorry, Anthony's been ill, and Ryan Tafazoli has been ill. Ryan recovered enough to be on the bench, but Anthony didn't recover in time, and so we're going to make sure that he's fit and well to return. Illnesses this time of year, not just the pandemic, but illnesses in general, can weaken you this time of year. And again, in recent years, we've probably come a cropper to that, where people have just been under par and we've had to play them because they're our players. But putting Chris Farino in for Ryan Tafazoli today, some might say it's a brave decision, but not when you work with Chris every day and not when you see what he can give you. So really proud of him, but got a wealth of players ready to come in when needed, and some of these young boys as well, bringing up the rear, and Adam Leathers, Ollie Pendlebury, Ali and TJ, people like that, Jack Wakely. I don't want to miss anyone out, but they're all pushing these boys and making them keep hold of their places, which is what a football club should be.
Does it help that Anis Mehmeti has opened the path for them now?
Yeah, the pathway is always open for youngsters. I can't think how many league debuts I have given to these youngsters, but they've taken them. They have a chance here. That's the thing. You speak to some of these young boys' agents, and they say there's a pathway. You always get your chance at Wycombe. There's players that will be in B teams elsewhere and reserve teams that will be 24, 25, still waiting for that chance. They get it here young, and I think it's brilliant that they do. We've got another player in Chris, but like I say, Ali Al-Hamidi, TJ, Jack Wakely, underneath, they're coming through. Connor Parsons, we've got some players coming through. Brilliant to talk about Wycombe Wanderers in this vein. But back to the first team, tonight was a great win, because I thought this would be a really tough game. Turned out to be a tough game, second half definitely, but the damage was done in the first half, and the boys deserved to win.
Brilliant performance from David Wheeler, we have to say, who came on and shored everything up and made sure from that point. Before then, it did look like Burton may well get an equaliser, and as soon as David Wheeler came on, you did think, oh yeah, okay, we look like we're going to be okay now, and sure enough we were. But
there do seem to be other players who've come in for praise as well. Obviously, Chris on his Chris Firmino on his debut. Yeah, really good. I mean, he was man of the match, and deservedly so. Really good to see him coming through. We hear more about him later on. From a good tease.
Yes. Oh yeah, absolutely. Because his pathway to the first team is quite an interesting one and an unexpected one as well. We want to give a bit of praise as well to all the fans on the Valley Terrace. Now, we spoke earlier on in the season, if you remember, about the drummer.
Oh yes.
And the fact that actually musical instruments aren't now allowed in the ground. I've got a lot of respect and time for the drummer, and I completely understand, he did a lot of good. But one of the things that we did say was that the trouble with drumming all the time is that actually it means that some creative things that might happen didn't then get to happen, because actually the drumming very much dominated. And there was a perfect example on Tuesday night, and a very festive example as well.
Very creative in the writing room there for that one.
Excellent. I particularly like the 5 Tapazolis, which they did very, very enthusiastically. Really enjoyed that. Can we have more of that, please? Particularly the 12 days of Ryan Tafazoli. That was brilliant.
Something else which was significant about Tuesday, it was the Rainbow Laces game, and Wycombe Wanderers Sport and Education Trust head Paul Foley has been chatting to Alicia about the whole Rainbow Laces and Stonewall campaign.
The Stonewall charity is a charity that seeks to further inclusion when it comes to LGBTQ plus community. The Rainbow Laces campaign is a way of bringing LGBTQ rights to the forefront of public knowledge or awareness. It involves football clubs and sports clubs nationwide wearing rainbow laces or laces in the shoes that are rainbow coloured as a show of solidarity with the LGBTQ plus community.
And why is the Rainbow Laces campaign necessary, do you think, in football?
I think it's not just necessary in football. It's required throughout society. There are still people who have bigoted views when it comes to people's sexuality. Stonewall have done many surveys and a lot of research around the way that people from the LGBTQ plus community feel when it comes to participating and supporting in sports. 20% of fans still thought that some LGBTQ language, disparaging language, if it was said in a banterish way, was still acceptable, which clearly it shouldn't be. So I think there's still quite a way to go in order to make sure that people from the LGBTQ plus community feel welcome in sports.
And what do you think clubs like Wycombe Wanderers and obviously the Community and Education Trust that we've got here, what do you think we should be doing as well as Rainbow Laces in the future to sort of keep furthering those goals?
Yeah, I think it's all about showing that Wycombe Wanderers as a community club puts itself at the forefront of these sorts of discussions. I think that the more football clubs talk about these sorts of things, the more awareness is raised. I think when we're going out, our staff, our coaches, our teachers are going into schools and having these conversations around rainbow laces and LGBTQ plus rights, I think that can only help. And even if it just helps one person, then that's a step closer to being a more inclusive society as a whole. As
a club, we've also got the All Quarters Club. Could you talk us through sort of what that is all about?
Yeah, of course. So the All Quarters project is a fan learning and consultation project where the overall aim is to make the football club more engaging for traditionally underrepresented groups, those being people from the LGBTQ plus community, plus people from minority ethnicities, women and girls and people with disabilities. So what we're trying to do, and this is us as the charitable arm of the football club themselves, plus Wycombe Wanderers Trust, part owners of the football club, we're working together to hold monthly consultation and learning events where we're gaining fan feedback on ways that the football club could better engage and really be for everybody. So we've currently held 4 or 5 of the events and we've got 6 or 7 still to go. Got some great feedback and hopefully there'll be some changes that are implemented off the back of the feedback we've received. And again, overall aim being more people want to come down to the football club and enjoy a game on a Saturday and feel like the football club really is for them.
Paul Foley from the Wycombe Wanderers Sport and Education Trust speaking to the club and Alicia. Speaking to the club and Alicia. No, speaking to the club.
Is your brain not working?
Comma, Alicia. From the club.
Speaking to one of the club's media officials.
Let's say that.
Povey.
Yeah, let's say that.
Yeah, but really good to hear. Excellent. I really like what he said as well.
Yeah,
about, it is the club is for all. And yeah, really great that they've got on board with the Rainbow Laces campaign. Also, actually, a bit of a heads up, if you check out the club's social media, you'll see and hear, although mostly here, an interview with Tyrone, who's from the Chairboys LGBTQ+. There's been lots of good stuff this week.
And he speaks very well about how inclusive the club is and the things that they do. They do.
We are very lucky to have the club that we have in our town.
Absolutely.
I've said that. I know I say that every week.
I'm very lucky, as John Bignall will say shortly,
Indeed,
to have the manager that we do.
Yes, you've got his name right this time.
Thank you.
Not that you got it wrong the first time.
I was going to say, I got it right.
No,
I just didn't have the faith in myself.
And we will still be hearing from Gareth Ainsworth as well in the show about Swiss Army knives.
And we'll update you on how Wycombe Wanderers women are doing too. Here at Wycombe Sound.
Online, on Radio Player, and on 106.6 FM. This is Wycombe Sound.
Still to come on this week's edition of the Wycombe Wanderers Show, Bob caught up with Wycombe manager Gareth Ainsworth a little earlier on today. There's also a contribution from Siri in the chat.
Yes, there is. Have you left that bit in?
Yeah.
So I initially took that out. I just Gareth's voice suddenly changed, and I thought, what on earth is that? But he picked up perfectly from where Siri then picked up, if you see what I mean. So I thought it was him.
Listen closely or you'll miss it.
Okay.
It's quite entertaining.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it. I thought it was worth leaving in.
No, definitely. No, I'm pleased that you have left it.
Especially now we flagged it up, because you might not have noticed it otherwise. But first, a big thank you to the Wycombe Wanderers Ex-Players Association for our regular slot. Would you call it a slot?
Regular feature.
Feature, that's better.
Feature.
This week we're chatting to John Bignall, a man who, among other things, has served on the Trust Board. He's also, as you'll hear, been the Secretary of the Capital
League
side, which essentially were the reserves. He was in charge of them when Martin O'Neill's time. But, as you'll hear, he's been associated with the club a lot longer than that.
Yeah, well, my father used to go and watch Wycombe, and lots of the family, and I remember going at a very young age, but like a lot of children at the time, certainly my boys did the same, actually not taking a lot of interest in the football, rolling about on the banks behind the goal, that sort of thing. But my first major memory is watching the game that Wycombe played against the Ugandan FA 11, which was in August '56, so that's 65 years ago. And it was, they won 10-1. There were 7,500 people there, and it just blew your mind, really, for me as a young child, standing watching all these people, and the atmosphere was just electric. And that was, I think, the third game of the season. They'd already played some league matches, but that sort of crowd was something that stuck with me. And of course, because the game was recorded on Pathé News, it's something that I've been able to dip into over the years, and not many people get their first Wycombe game being televised, unless of course it's in in the last 20 or 30 years or so, when everything is televised. But that was the start, really.
And were there any sort of particular players from that era that particularly stood out?
Yes, there was. I mean, Lem Worley to me was always my favourite, and of course he went through from the 50s right the way through almost into the 70s, and he finished at the end of '69. He was just a magical player, really. He could excite people. He could frustrate people, because he liked to beat people more than once. But yeah, he was a very, very good player. But they had, at that time there were people like Paul Bates and Jack Tomlin and the centre half Michael Wicks. I mean, the whole team were really very good players, and probably, well, obviously Len himself did play, as you know, because I know you've spoken to him, but he did play for Tottenham and Charlton, so they could have had a lot of them careers in pro football. But as was with a lot of amateur players at the time, they all had jobs, and they preferred to stay in the amateur game.
And of course, such an interesting time during the 60s when the club had a committee and coaches who were overseen by the board members.
The team was picked by committee. They used to meet on a Monday night, and they would pick their team and give it to the then coach, because we didn't have managers and it was coaches. And it did cause, I think in the days of Sid Can it worked, but I think in the 60s football was changing, and it did cause some problems. And I seem to remember a time when Barry Darby was manager that the committee wanted certain players to play and Barry Darby didn't want them. And I remember one time the team nearly went on strike over people being sort of forced into the team. And it was quite interesting, because I can think these days, if things are not going very well, it's always the manager that sort of gets the rocket from the supporters. But in those days, I can remember cries of "committee resign." So it was, it was a strange thing. But of course, Brian changed all that. It was the first thing he did when he arrived, and I think it was one of the things that he had to be agreed for him to take the job.
So in those days, you were just a supporter. You weren't actually sort of involved in the committee.
No, I was very much a supporter. I don't think I missed a game in those days at all. Anywhere, I just loved it. It was, and it's interesting looking back. A couple of weeks ago, or a few weeks ago, when we played Ipswich on a Tuesday night, and the atmosphere at Adams Park that night was absolutely electric. I felt, there was about 6,500 there, and it sort of took me back to the early days when we first had floodlights at Blokes Park, and that it was a similar sort of atmosphere. There was something very, very special about evening games. The atmosphere, it was just wonderful, sort of, walking up to the ground and being there. So yes, it's great. It's continued, and the atmosphere at games at Blokes Park was something very, very special. I think only people that could have experienced it would understand, really. But as I say, that Ipswich game a few weeks ago, everybody seemed to be up for it. Huge crowds and queues getting into the ground, and it was really great to be there.
So then how did it become that you were involved in the club in an administrative level?
Well, that really happened in the 90s. It was the first season that the club were in the Football League, and they needed a secretary to look after the Capital League team, which at that time, a bit like the development squad today, it was the reserve team, but they played in a league then, and it was we'd only just gone full-time pro, so they didn't have enough players to put out two teams of the full-time pro, so they would draft in people on trial lists for most league games, so it was a mixture of trialists and people coming back from injury, that sort of thing. There was a league game which would consist of teams like Colchester and Leyton Orient, but Woking and some of the older teams that we played back in the amateur days. So that was pretty interesting. So I got to do the admin for that and go with the team to all of their games home and away. And that was quite an interesting time. Of course, Martin O'Neill being the manager was a great guy to work alongside, and some great times really. I remember one particular when Simon Garner joined Wycombe. I believe he's still the leading Blackburn scorer of all time, but he joined us from West Brom, having played against us in an FA Cup game, and so he was a big signing. But I remember introducing myself to him and saying, "Look, I help look after the Capital League team, which is in fact the reserve team. So I don't think you'll be seeing much of me." And he said, "Well, I sincerely hope not." But the adjective he used was slightly stronger than sincerely, if you get my meaning. He certainly didn't want to be playing in the reserves. I think he did have a couple of games, actually. But we had some interesting players actually play in that time, because it's people that we thought might get in the team and were coming to the end of their careers. I mean, Kenny Sampson, the England fullback, played a game. So, that was it. So I got involved during then and, stayed helping the club secretaries on match days, and so it was a very enjoyable time, really.
As you say, you must have seen some sort of great talent in the reserves who are perhaps just coming through as well. Yeah, I mean, one of the players I think now when I watch TV at the moment, Graham Potter, the Brighton manager, played a few games. He signed. He actually had I think about 4 games in the first team, but he played in the Capital League for us then, and sometimes we had a really strong side. I remember us going to Cambridge one day with pretty much a full side with Dave Carroll and Steve Guppy and all those people playing. Steve Thompson, I think we won about 6-1. So, it was certainly an interesting time. And, of course, the club was progressing all the time, really. Of course, that first season in the league, we ended up at Wembley, the first team, playing Preston in the playoff final. It must have been such an exciting feeling as well. As you say, such a special time and the progress the club was making to have such a behind-the-scenes role. Well, that's right. I mean, one of the things that struck me actually about that season was, I mean, way back in the I think it was about 1960, Frank Adams, who, as you know, was the benefactor of Blokes Park, opened a new sports shop in the new Murray's department store in Wycombe. And I, along with hundreds of other sort of schoolboys at the time, lined up out into White Hart Street to get the autograph of Tom Finney, who was the English international who was opening the store. I still got it somewhere, that autograph.
But the day at Wembley when we beat them in the playoff final, when we beat Preston, being part of the Wycombe party, I met Tom Finney before the game, and after the game he was one of the first people to sort of congratulate me on Wycombe's success, and I sort of thought, well, this is amazing really, come from sort of queuing up to get my autograph to now being with this guy here, in the great halls of Wembley. So it was, marvellous times really.
Oh, it's fantastic to sort of hear those stories, and also for you to have that sort of memory to sort of have as well.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. And I mean, I was lucky enough in my sort of teenage years to have a couple of really good friends that played for Wycombe. So I would go and watch them and go to various functions with them, and so I sort of became part of Wycombe really from a very early age, and got to know quite lots of players who, in fact, I still know a lot of them now from those days, because as you know, the Ex-Players Association is very strong, and so it's great really to be involved with that as well, with the guys that I used to go and watch all those years ago.
I was going to say, it must have been great, the sort of relationships you had with the players at the time, as you say, but also the players that you'd have watched as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think one of the things that comes through with Wycombe, and the people that you've spoken to on your show, they all really say the same thing, that there's this something special. It's a special atmosphere, and when you played for Wycombe, the people that have been there over the years have something about them. So nowadays, mixing with players from all different eras, they all mix really well together. But they're nice people, and I think it says a lot about the club and the people that have run it over the years, way back into the 50s, right the way through to the present day.
I'm sure everyone doesn't they say that their club's special, but it does feel, as you say, from the ex-players that we've spoken to and many people associated with the club, that Wycombe is something that's quite, I guess, sort of difficult to sort of sum up in what's special about it.
I think it's intangible, really, Colin. But I think you could put a lot of it down to the managers, really, over the years. Sid Can, Brian Lee, Martin O'Neill, and through to Gareth, getting the right people there as players. They're not just good footballers; they've got the right character and that sort of thing, and it makes such a difference to the team ethic. As I say, I've seen it down the years, and it's still prevalent today. Absolutely. Obviously, the style of football's changed dramatically, but I mentioned Glenn Worley, and there was also, of course, back in that time, you had Tony Horseman, local lad, scoring all those goals, and then through to in the 70s, Brian Lee's team, which won the league 4 times out in 5 seasons. People like Larry Pritchard, who was probably one of the best amateur footballers around at that time. And into the 80s, we had Noel Ashford, who was also an exceptionally good player. Then into Martin's time, David Carroll and Guppy and Steve Thompson. So, and then you got the present group of players and some really exciting players. Yeah, I mean, absolutely, it's great. I mean, it's like everything else in football. You can't win everything and you can't win all the time. But there's been far more ups than downs, I have to say.
And you must be especially pleased to be able to observe the club from such a span, if you like, from the 50s right up to today's successful side being in the Championship last season.
Yeah, well, that's right. I mean, obviously that was very disappointing for all of us not being able to watch them when they were there. But I mean, the way we started this season and the stated ambition, I think now with the new investment that we've got, there's no reason why we shouldn't go on and continue that success, really. I mean, I'm very confident and hopeful about the future. So yeah, that's really great. I mean, you can't speak highly enough of Gareth as a manager either. I think he's exceptional. I think we're not just his football ability, but basically the whole ethos about him is the commitment to the community and to players and people. I think we're very, very fortunate to have him as manager, and long may he continue in the role.
Really nice to hear from John there, and brilliant to hear his stories from such a long Period.
I love the Tom Finney story because you can picture that whole scene, can't you, of the boys sort of like queuing up, probably quite well behaved,
absolutely
queuing in the way that
in quite long shorts.
Yeah, yes, indeed, and just asking for an autograph. Things that these days as well would never really happen. These days, if let's just assume that, I don't know, Ronaldo was coming to Wycombe or something like that, you'd get people sort of holding up signs saying, "Can I have your shirt?"
Yes.
And they wouldn't be trying to get his autograph, they'd just be trying to get a selfie or something like that. But yeah, different generation, but really, really interesting to hear.
And John was also saying off air that he and JDT, when before the restrictions were in place, but they would take round players who weren't playing in the current team to meet players some of the ex-players who were there as well, and also anyone else who was in the sort of the boxes and stuff really like
nice.
that. So a fantastic opportunity for that sort of cross-generational sort of thing.
Yeah, definitely. Really, really nice. I mean, they do excellent work as well, the Ex-Players Association. So thank you very much to JDT and all the team.
Yeah, they've got their, as it stands, they've got their annual dinner in the spring as well.
Oh yes, their Christmas dinner. They're not doing.
No, it was going to be last week, I think. Officially, it would have been.
Yeah. Then honestly, they're not holding it quietly and pretending that it didn't happen.
You've mentioned Christmas dinner as well. Now that's really got me thinking about food.
Has it? Oh, sorry.
Still to come on the Wycombe Wanderers Show, parsnips. No, we'll be hearing from manager Gareth Ainsworth.
He'll be reflecting on Swiss Army knives.
Yeah, that gets mentioned.
And AFC Wimbledon and their heritage.
Lots to look forward to. Pigs in blankets. He doesn't talk about that. Here at Wycombe Sound.
Online, on Radio Player, and on 106.6 FM. This is Wycombe Sound.
Final part of the Wycombe Wanderers Show. Still to come, Bob's chat with Gareth Ainsworth, accompanied by Siri.
Why do we always do that thing during when you play that jingle where we both sort of like put our arms in the air as if we're at some sort of like 90s rave or something?
Because it just feels appropriate.
I suppose it does. It's like...
We don't do it with any other jingles.
Wycombe Sound jingles done by Carter USM or something.
We don't do... Pardon? That's a strange reference. Because we don't do any line dancing to any other...
I didn't want to say their actual name because I thought it's before the watershed.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Look it up on Google.
I can't even think of any of their songs, to be honest.
Oh, Sheriff Fatman.
Sorry?
Sheriff Fatman.
Right.
The only living boy in New Cross. Oh, you obviously weren't as much of a fan as I was.
No.
Actually, I had a friend who was a fan. So
really?
Yes, yeah. They were a good band, though.
Oh, right.
Yeah. This should be in our Not the Wycombe Wanderers show that we're going to do, where we just talk about any old rubbish.
Yeah, I was quite surprised. It's interesting, isn't it, how stuff just comes up?
It does, yes. And coming up now, we're going to talk about Wycombe Wanderers women. I got it right this week.
I think last week we called, probably last year, but we was all right to last year. We called them Wycombe Wanderers ladies briefly, but we corrected ourselves.
Yes, I know. I do make that mistake, but Colin does throw me one of his cross looks when I say that. So I'm now saying Wycombe Wanderers women. They beat the Winchester City Flyers, who I still think sound like an ice hockey side. They beat them 2-1, and so we move up to now 5th place in the 9-team table. We currently have 10 points from 9 games, so things definitely looking up for Wycombe Wanderers women, and they have a cup game this coming Sunday, so they will be travelling to Abingdon United in I believe it is the Southern Region Women's League Cup.
Fantastic. All the best to Dave Ward and the team as they continue their season, hopefully uninterrupted this season as well. If you get the chance, do get along to Spring Lane to go and see them.
They definitely don't need Plan B coming along and disrupting them again.
What, the rapper?
Not him, no.
Get the music references in this week.
You lose me with rap, sorry.
Well, no, I can't pretend to be an aficionado, but I just happen to know that Plan B is...
I'm impressed.
You probably know more about Carter USM than me.
I do, yes, yeah. 30-something.
Is that how old he is?
1992, the Love album, and other albums are available, but those are the best two. So yes, I spoke to Gareth Ainsworth earlier on today, and it was very entertaining because he talks about the heritage of Wimbledon briefly, but even so, very much. It's interesting to know whereabouts he lies on the what you think about franchising in football, and very much his opinion is the right on the right side.
I'm not just saying this because you're here. I suppose I'm a bit. But it's a really good chat.
Yes, yeah, I enjoyed it. It was good this morning. I think we went on for about 12 minutes, and and it felt only like about 3 or 4.
Well, we get to listen.
People think that when they listen back to it.
Feels like a lot longer. No. So we're looking ahead to AFC Wimbledon.
We are.
Listening out for Swiss Army knives?
Yes.
And Siri.
And the Siri bit. And the line is not that good, because unfortunately he was only able to be with us on a mobile. And so when the Siri bit happens, I genuinely thought it was him and that his phone had gone a bit strange. And I was sort of sitting there then thinking, that's really odd. His phone has gone so strange that he's actually used a different voice. And it was only when you came in later on that you pointed out that it was Siri.
Yeah. Make sure you don't miss that, because it's easily missable. Bob chatting to Wycombe Wanderers manager Gareth Ainsworth only this morning.
Let's take you back first of all to Tuesday night and a fantastic league debut for Chris Farino.
Yeah, I mean, it was a great performance all round, and a bit of a call on Chris really, because obviously everyone would be wondering where Anthony Stewart and Ryan Tapazoli were. Ryan was on the bench and Anthony were both being ill, so I think you've got to trust your players sometimes, and putting trust in some of these young boys. Knowledge is good. It's not only great for Chris, but great for the rest of the development squad as well, that they've not got a chance. But I mean, what a great performance by the boy. Yeah, he won every header. I think having JJ and Jack Gummer either side of him helps, and David Stockdale behind him. I'd like to make my debut with those there. It was brilliant for him, to have all that experience around him. But he's a player that I watched him in his first trial game here, and he was just brought in really to make the numbers up, if I'm being totally honest, because we were short of a couple of centre-halves in a trial game. Sam Grace brought him in. I don't know if Sam knew much about him, but just seeing him in that one game, I just said, get him training with us. And within 2 weeks of training, I'd made my decision. I knew that he would have something that potentially could turn into a good career, and he's proven himself day in, day out. He's worked really hard on his. He came in and he wasn't up to shape. His back was a little bit all over the place, and he hadn't been training. He'd been at university and going down that route, and he needed to get up to that. So his first test was to go in the gym for 3 months and sort himself out back-wise, posture-wise, get strength-wise, and trust my medical team with Cian O'Doherty and Ali Vogelsang, who worked really hard with him as well, and Isaac Leckie. So they've got him up to speed. He's been patient, made a little debut at Hartlepool in the FA Cup and scored, which was brilliant for him. And he's been waiting his chance, and everyone wants your league debut. That's the one you want. And he got it the other night. And funnily enough, as you speak to me, he's just come into me this morning and said to me, "Thank you, thanks for my opportunity, Gaffer." And that's again a great trait. His humility is important as well. And I just said to him, "You deserve that. It's nothing to do with me." But he's now got to keep those consistent performances and keep the pressure on those players above him, aforementioned. But really proud and pleased of Chris, and to have a debut with a win, obviously, is the icing on the cake for him.
Yeah, I mean, that's an absolutely lovely, heartwarming story. And also, one of the things I think it also says to any footballer who might be interested in coming to Wycombe Wanderers is you'll get a chance. You know, even if you're coming to make up the numbers, there's a chance that actually one day you'll be pulling on the light and dark blue quarters.
Yeah, you never make up the numbers once you're in the building, believe me. You're doing in the trial games, we have sometimes there's positions where we need to fill in the trial game, and we'll go, right, this boy's got a chance. He comes in, and that was Chris's story, and it's fantastic that he's put his education on hold and come in. But as you say, the likes of TJ DeBar, Ali Al-Hamadi, who's come in lately, they're exciting players. We've got one or two out on loan at the moment. I don't want to name them all and miss one out. So all these development boys are under Sam Grace's reign, and they've all got a chance to play at Wycombe, because I do like a small squad. Recent managers have been in my office after games saying they've got too big a squad. Opposition managers saying we've got too big a squad, we're struggling. And I'm thinking, well, that's of your own making. I don't complain. I always mention we have a small squad, but it's by design. It really is by design. And having these boys now to come in and bolster up when there's gaps in the squad, it's brilliant, and they're proving they're good enough, and they'll get the trust here, they'll get the opportunities, and as you say, Wycombe Wanderers does give young boys a chance. We've seen that and done that, and I'm proud of doing that.
Did you get to the bottom at all of what happened with regards to Burton's goal on Tuesday night? Because it was very curious, and I think you can always tell in a football match. The fact that the Burton fans didn't seem to celebrate it, something happened that made everybody think that actually the play had stopped.
Yeah, it looked like there was a foul in there. It looked like there was a push. It looked like the ball went in slow motion. I think everyone stopped because I think there was a foul or a push or something, and it was a really weird goal. And David Stockdale was totally unsighted. He couldn't see at all through the melee of players, and it just seemed to go in slow motion. And it was a strange one for me, but I'm actually glad it wasn't a 30-yard top corner, because that might have enthused all the fans and the players to get back in it. But it was almost like as Burton just scored, it was weird, and. But the reaction the boys made was brilliant. They really saw the game home well, and I think we should have scored one or two more, and that's great when you say that, because you're creating plenty of chances. But no, really pleased with the 3 points. Just looking at the next game now, which is Saturday. But I'm sure the boys can take heart from a great performance, especially in that first half.
Yeah, and one of the players who played, I thought, so well was David Wheeler, a player who comes on, he goes quietly about his business, but he very much shored the game up for you in the second half.
I'll have to say that I think that was a turning point in the game. I thought that, being honest, I thought first half was, 80-20 Wycombe Wanderers. We were all over them. We really did put the game to them, and that's where we did our damage. But I thought the game started going towards a 50-50 game, which could have gone either way. And once David Wheeler came on, I thought the game changed right in our favour again. I thought we then went back to the percentages that we were getting in the first half. That is just the mark of that man. He is he's unbelievable, and he won't mind you telling you this, but it was a really tough decision to leave Dave out, and it wasn't leaving him out. It was starting him on the bench, as old managers say, because he was absolutely phenomenal at Sheffield Wednesday. At Plymouth, he really was brilliant. And it's, as a manager, you have to make these decisions sometimes for the good of the team and the system you want to play. And I thought playing Alex and Gareth together would have really opened Burton up, and it did. It really did. And Dave said to me, he said, "Gaffer," he said, "This is your decision." He said, "This is before the game, a couple of days before." He said, "I will back you. Whatever you decide, Gaffer. And if we win 5-0, he said, I'll be the happiest man. Even if we don't win," he said, "I'll back you." He said, "Because of what you've done." And to have someone like that in your dressing room, we actually call him the Swiss Army knife, because he absolutely will fit in anywhere and do a job as good as anyone. There's probably a corkscrew and a nail file in there somewhere as well, like the Swiss Army knives, But he's unbelievable, honestly. He really is. He's a top guy. He's very intelligent. He leads the dressing room as well. With the likes of Bloomfield coming away and Akinfenwa not being around as much as he used to be, because there's obviously a lot going on and other commitments with him. And Wheeler is coming to the front as one of these leaders in that dressing room, and with an intellect and an intelligence that he knows people. He's doing a leadership degree at university, and I think he's working people out and knows how to motivate different people. So what you see on the pitch, he just gives as much off the pitch as well. And I'm really proud of Dave. I think he's a great advert for a Wycombe Wanderers player.
And if you need a screwdriver, he comes in handy as well.
And a torch and anything. Yeah, he's brilliant.
And so AFC Wimbledon on Saturday, a side who are towards the bottom of the table, but definitely have improved in recent weeks. Yeah,
and if I'm honest, one of our bogey-ish sides, can I say? Because we always, I've got a connection there. Obviously, I played for Wimbledon, and that Wimbledon's the Wimbledon for me. That one that's coming on Saturday. That they have the history of the true Wimbledon for me, and that is going to be a tough game. They're a very good side when they're on their game, and they play a real good style of football. They've got some young boys, some energy. They've got some big men up front as well that they can go into with Presley and Palmer, and so they've got a bit of everything. And also they've got Robbo's a new manager where he's trying to put his stamp down, and he's done fantastically well last season and this season. A lot of respect for that club from what they've been through and where they've come from, and and obviously I played for that club as well. So I'm hoping we can get one over on them because they have been a tough side against us in recent years. We go there and it's always tough. Well, we haven't been to Parliament and we can't wait to get back there. Never played there as a player for them, but it'd be awesome to see that place. I've been there scouting a couple of times, but Kingstonian, it was always tough. It was always a tough ground to go to and visit. So I'm hoping that Adams Park can be a tough ground for them to visit on Saturday because they really have given us good games in this competition, this football league over the years, and looking forward to it. But we'll be well prepared as well.
And as we enter then the crazy Christmas period, I mean, it's not too bad yet because obviously you've then got the week until the Bolton game, but after that it gets pretty crazy. But brilliant that we are still currently, level on points at the top with Rotherham and Wigan. Annoying that Wigan got the last minute goal last night.
Everyone's annoyed as me, when you say you don't look at other results. Of course you do, and that was one we were hoping Shrewsbury would hang on for, but they're good sides, they're very good sides. Rotherham and Wigan, both very good sides. Sunderland coming on our tails as well, and then you look at the six behind them, with you Portsmouth, your Oxfords, your MK Dons up there, so we've got great company around us. I'm looking forward to seeing what we can do over the Christmas period, as you say. Again, historically, we've always sort of struggled a little bit, but this season just feels different. It feels like we have the right squad, the right timing, the right ages of the squad, the development boys coming through. We had that little break last week. I don't think the schedule's as mental this year as it ever is. The teams we've played so far away from home, I think we've played a lot of the big teams away from home. So I think there's a lot of things in our favour, but we just have to stay consistent, stay driven, stay focused, and more importantly, stay fit, because I know that if I've got my best 17, 18 players, they will be a match for absolutely anyone in this league.
Really interesting to hear that Gareth thinks that this season feels special.
Yes. And interesting about 17 or 18. Yes, it's great that we've now got a squad rather than a team, but he doesn't want too bigger of a squad.
He likes a small squad.
He doesn't want sort of bingo numbers like we've seen in some of the Pizza Cup games.
No, some very big numbers on the backs of shirts.
Yes, indeed, where you think, how have you got number 90 on you? Also interesting about David Wheeler.
Very.
Yes. Which bit of a Swiss Army knife would you be, I wonder, Mr. Besley?
That's a very good question. I'd say possibly the magnifying glass. Some of them do a magnifying glass.
Oh, okay. All right, okay.
Possibly.
I think I'd be the pen.
Uh-huh. Do you get a pen?
Yeah, sometimes you get a little pen.
Oh, yeah, advanced, very advanced. Yeah. Also, taking from that interview, really nice. Obviously, you mentioned David Wheeler. He said he would back him, even if they lost, which is really nice.
Wasn't that great? That was a really, really nice bit. Nice to hear. Not a huge surprise. We've heard so much. He's such an emotionally intelligent bloke, David Wheeler, isn't he? He really is another one of those generals in the side. Quiet general, but really, really important cog in the wheel of Wycombe Wanderers. And great to hear that actually, he completely understands if he's not in the team, and he still wants them to go and win 5-0.
And even someone like Chris Farino as well, thanking the manager for giving his lead.
Again,
that's lovely.
That was lovely and fascinating as well. That actually he was brought in basically to make up the numbers, and you think, goodness me, there's hope for us all. Maybe not you and I, Colin, but
not quite all.
But you know what I mean.
No, definitely.
Actually, if you're contacted and they say, come along and we want you to play in a trial match, well, you never know.
And John Bignall as well, touching on a little earlier on, and something you've said many times as well, how lucky we are to have the manager. I know at one point earlier this week there was speculation being linked.
Once again, Preston, goodness me, they get through their managers, don't they? Stop getting rid of your manager, but it's all right, they've already appointed. So they've appointed the Plymouth Argyle manager, which is a bit of a surprise.
Yeah. Because he hasn't been there that long, has he?
Well, and also it's one of those. There's a possibility that actually next season you could have swapped round and Plymouth might be in the Championship. Preston might be in League One. Yeah. Why on earth do that? Also, a surprise that Ipswich got rid of their manager. I know that after they'd beaten us 4-1,
yes,
they'd had a dip, but even so, you didn't see that coming back in November, did you? After the 4-1, where it felt like, oh goodness me, Ipswich might be promotion contenders, and now they've got rid of their manager.
So AFC Wimbledon next, and as you touched on, there's a busy period coming up.
There is, yes, and Bolton Wanderers is the next game after AFC Wimbledon. A trip up to the Reebok, it's always going to be the Reebok to me. It's always nice because it's still feels a bit like you're going to a Premier League ground, even though they've obviously been through a lot of trials and tribulations over the year. But very much also a game that we need to win. Again, if we're serious about this promotion lark, then we need to be beating AFC Wimbledon and performing very well against Bolton Wanderers as well before that busy Christmas period really does kick in, when we're then playing on Boxing Day and then got a big game away to Ipswich Town on Wednesday the 29th of December.
It's very festive, isn't it? I think
it's very good.
We could play this on, in the run up to Christmas as well. It's very nice to have. There's a lot of Tafazzolis in that. It's definitely.
That's my favourite bit. I like the 5 Tafazzolis.
The 5 Tafazzolis is good.
The 5 Tafazzolis is good. I think that they should actually release it as a Christmas single. Maybe we could just play it as a song on Wycombe Sound.
Yeah, just loop it.
Yeah.
3.5 minutes of just that.
Just put it in a few times tomorrow and see if anyone actually notices.
It might stand out, I think.
Along with the Siri bit of Gareth saying, "Knowledge is power."
It's almost like a subliminal Yoda message, isn't it? It's like,
it was like something from the Terminator. I was slightly worried when it said "knowledge is power."
It was a bit off-putting. Join us next week for the Wycombe Wanderers Show, where hopefully we'll have 3 more points. Say something odd.
We've managed to go through the whole thing again without mentioning the dog leads. Sorry, dogs. I feel like I'm letting them down. And my commission from the club shop is going down.
Especially if they're up to Christmas. It's important to mention stuff like that.
5 Tafazzolis.